suspicion of a cover-up. In Gaza, despair deepens. Families flee south as Israel's ground offensive pushes deeper into the city. From Moscow, a chilling warning. Sergei Lavrov declares European peacekeepers would be legitimate targets if they set foot in Ukraine. In Kiev, urgency mounts. President Zelensky appeals to the US and Europe for tougher sanctions against Russia's war machine. In Indonesia, turmoil at the top. President Prabowo forced into another cabinet shake-up as protests rage on the streets. In Nepal, grief turns into solemn defiance. Protest victims cremated with state honors. Their sacrifice etched into the nation's memory. Across the United Kingdom, pageantry amid unrest. Donald Trump joins King Charles at Windsor, a lavish banquet masking political turbulence. And on the world stage of sport, Las Pilipinas makes history, standing Egypt for their first ever volleyball world championship win. I'm Gellian Gutierrez. Newsline World starts now. Later, Representative Martin Romualdez has stepped down as Speaker of the House amid flood control scandal allegations. But Davao Representative Paulo Duterte brushed off the move as a cover-up, claiming someone else picked his replacement. MJ Mondihar for the report.
With a full heart and a clear conscience, I tender my resignation as Speaker of the House of Representatives.
That was the final statement of later Representative Martin Romualdez as Speaker of the 20th Congress. According to his allies, Romualdez had long been considering resignation amid allegations of irregularities in flood control projects. Romualdez served as Speaker and was part of the small committee of the recent 19th Congress that approved the 2025 national budget, described as the most corrupt fund in Philippine history. Amid corruption issues and the lavish lifestyle of Romualdez and his ally, Congressman Zaldico, was also linked to the multi-billion peso flood control anomaly, the former speaker insisted he was stepping down with nothing to hide. He asserted that he was innocent.
I do this so that the Independent Commission on Infrastructure may pursue its mandate freely and fully, without doubt, without interference, without undue influence.
Meanwhile, the House continues to face criticism over corruption issues. In fact, more protesters are gathering outside the Batasang Pambansa, demanding accountability from lawmakers implicated in the flood control anomaly. Former generals, PNP officials, and other officials from the Philippine Military Academy have also spoken out. According to them, Congress have betrayed the Filipino people by abusing public funds. They also declared war against corruption.
The longer I stay, the heavier that burden grows on me, on this House, and on the President I've always sought to support.
Meanwhile, Davao City Congressman Paulo Duterte called Romualdez's resignation as a cover-up move. He said that Ilocos Norte Representative Sandro Marcos, a son of the president, selected the replacement. Isabela Congressman Faustino Boji D was appointed as the new speaker. Duterte questioned whether the president was truly serious about fighting corruption and challenged him to file cases against corrupt lawmakers. He further said that it was hard to believe President Marcos Jr. was unaware of corruption in the House, especially since his son Sandro was the majority leader. Duterte also urged the Department of Public Works and Highways to release the complete list of all projects per district to identify which lawmakers had those projects. He said the government must confront corruption with full transparency and no cover-up. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been MJ Mondihar, SMNA News.
Indonesia's president is making more changes at the top. Prabowo Subianto reshuffled his cabinet once again, just days after his last shake-up, as his government faces mounting criticism over mass protests. This report.
Harap mengikuti dan mengulangi kata-kata saya. Demi Allah saya bersumpah.
Demi Allah saya bersumpah.
Bahwa saya akan setia kepada Undang-Undang Dasar Negara Republik Indonesia.
Undang-Undang Dasar Negara Republik Indonesia.
Tahun 1945. Serta akan menjalankan segala peraturan perundang-undangan dengan seluruh-luruhnya demi dharma bakti saya kepada bangsa dan negara.
The swearing-in of Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto's cabinet members took place at the State Palace in Jakarta, where new ministers repeated their oath of office before signing official decrees. Prabowo reshuffled his cabinet again on Wednesday, just days after major changes in his administration, as his government faces mounting criticism following mass demonstrations across the country. According to state officials, the reshuffle included changes inside the Presidential Staff Office and new appointments to the National Public Procurement Agency. This is Prabowo's second major shakeup in just a week, and it comes on the heels of mass demonstrations in late August. The move follows widespread protests in late August, where tens of thousands took to the streets in major Indonesian cities demanding better economic management and more responsive governance. Demonstrators have also pressed for stronger political accountability, with authorities confirming large-scale participation nationwide. For now, the president is banking on new members in his cabinet to calm public unrest, but the protests show just how deep public frustration has become. Kenyan families are on the move again in Gaza, heading south after new evacuation orders from Israel. It comes as the military expands its ground offensive into Gaza City under Operation Gideon's Chariots 2. Joy Tabanao has the story.
This is Al-Rashid Street, the coastal road now choked with cars, trucks, and people on foot. Families clutching what little they could carry. Women, children, and the elderly, leaving behind homes in Gaza City as Israel presses its ground offensive.
والله تعبنا قد ما تقولوا تعبنا والله العظيم يورد علي من بيت لاهية على يقول معي معسكر الشاطئ ومن الشاطئ هينا تريحنا بيجي 3 شهور عود قالوا نزحوا عودنا هينا نزحنا عودنا كنا في معسكر برضه معسكر الجبالي المعسكر برضه نزحنا كتير والحمد لله شو بدي أقول أكثر من هيك.
But for many, the choice is agonizing. Stay and risk death or leave everything behind.
احنا والله هذه اول مره انزح فيها من الشمال بس احنا يعني عن جد اشوف عيني اشي صعب جدا معاناه قويه كثير وبتمنى الناس انه تنزح يعني وترتاح من هالهم اكثر من هيك مش هقدر.
The Israeli Defense Forces say they struck more than 850 targets to clear the way for troops on the ground. Officials urge civilians to head south to what they call safer areas. The war has raged for nearly 2 years, beginning with Hamas' October 7th attack that killed more than 1,000 Israelis and took hundreds of hostages. Since then, Gaza's health ministry says over 65,000 Palestinians have been killed and more than 165,000 wounded. With Israel intensifying its campaign in Gaza City, the fighting and the mass displacement show no signs of slowing down. Joy Tabanao, your global citizen correspondent reporting for Newsline World.
In India, severe flooding has left parts of northeastern India underwater. Thousands forced into relief camps, schools closed, and rescue teams racing to save lives. Days of relentless rain have turned the streets of Impal, Manipur State's capital, into rivers. Waist-high water rushed throughout neighborhoods, carrying away wreckage and household belongings. Officials say district authorities and aid groups are on the ground, but many residents claim they've been left without help. Residents estimate more than 250 to 300 households are damaged. Rescue crews are seen searching for a 70-year-old man swept away when the Aral River burst its banks. The surging currents also destroyed the Faunaba Unity Bridge over a river, a lifeline now gone, cutting off nearby villages. All schools and colleges are closed through at least Wednesday as families crowd into shelters, bracing for more rain and more uncertainty. Coming up from Moscow, a chilling warning Sergei Lavrov declares to European peacekeepers would be legitimate targets if they set foot in Ukraine. In Kiev, urgency mounts. President Zelensky appeals to the U.S. and Europe for tougher sanctions against Russia's war machine. Across the United Kingdom, pageantry amid unrest. Donald Trump joins King Charles at Windsor, a lavish banquet masking political turbulence. And on the world stage of sport, alas, Pilipinas makes history, standing Egypt for their first ever Volleyball World Championship win. More news after the break.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa kama, nagche-check lang ng phone bago matulog. Tapos, hindi mo na malayan, ilang oras ka na palang nagbabasa at nanonood ng mga balita tungkol sa digmaan, sakuna, politika at lahat ng masasamang nangyayari sa mundo. Nakakaramdam ka na ng kaba at pagod. Pero tuloy mo pa rin ang scroll mo. Ang tawag dyan ay doom scrolling. Ito ang habit ng paulit-ulit na pagtingin sa mga negatibo o nakaka-depress na content tulad ng digmaan, krimen o problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masasamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman dyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay na content online hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim, parang lutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak nila ay nasa proseso pa ng pag-develop. Kaya mas malakas ang epekto ng doom scrolling at brain rot sa kanila. Maaaring makaapekto sa pag-aaral, pag-iisip at pakikitungo sa iba. Ang higit sa 4 na oras ng screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse. Magpahinga sa screen, magbasa, makipagkwentuhan, magdasal, maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
How to receive God's favor. So, for us, in order to receive the favor of God, we must avoid a holier than thou attitude. Importante sa harap ng ating Panginoon na tayo ay may kababaan ng loob na wag nating tingnan at mapagmataas tayo sa ating mga sarili. Isaiah chapter 57 verse 15. For thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity, whose name is holy. I dwell in the high and holy place, with him also that is of a contrite and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble and to revive the heart of the contrite ones. Bilang mga anak ng Diyos na tunay, upang tayo ay kasihan ng kanyang pabor, kailangan tayo ay hindi lamang mapagpakumbaba, kundi tayo ay mapagpatawad. You want to seek the favor of God? Be forgiving in your heart, so that when you pray and lift up holy hands to heaven, the Lord of heaven will also forgive your trespasses. May pabor ka na sa Diyos pagka ikaw ay dumadalangin na pinatawad mo ang kasalanan ng iba. In order to receive the favor of God, we must be humble. We must be forgiving. And we should not judge. And then, if you want to have favor with God, you must love God and obey God's words at all times. Ang aklat na ito ng kautusan ay huwag mahihiwalay sa iyong bibig, kundi iyong pagbubulayan araw at gabi upang iyong masunod na gawin ang ayon sa lahat ng nakasulat dito, sapagkat kung magkagayoy, iyong pagiginhawain ang iyong lakad, at kung magkagayoy, magtatamo ka ng mabuting kawakasan. Magkakaroon ka ng pabor sa harap ng ating Panginoon. Mahalin ang kanyang mga banal na salita, ipamuhay ang kanyang banal na salita, sundin ang kanyang banal na salita, huwag hihiwalay ang kanyang banal na salita sa ating bibig araw at gabi. Pagbubulayan natin yan araw at gabi. Bago kayo magtrabaho sa umaga, pagkagising ninyo, kumuha muna kayo ng mga salita ng Diyos. Magbasa kayo, mag-devotional kayo. Basahin ang salita ng Diyos. Mahalin ang salita ng Diyos. Huwag ilagay ang Biblia at patungan ng anumang klaseng libro. Kailangan yan ay nasa ibabaw ng lahat ng libro.
And we're back. In Nepal, protesters killed in Gen Z-led anti-corruption demonstrations have been cremated with national honors in the capital. The government has declared a national day of mourning and announced financial aid for bereaved families. Almar Forzuelo reports.
A solemn farewell in Kathmandu as the nation turns out to honor young protesters killed in the anti-corruption movement. What began as a street protest has now become a national reckoning. The rites were carried out at the Pashupatinath Temple after a procession that began at Tribhuvan University Teaching Hospital and passed through Chabahil. Mourners wept as coffins were carried through the streets, with government ministers joining citizens to pay their respects. Interim Prime Minister Sushila Karki took office on September 12 after the resignation of KP Sharma Oli. Karki had earlier declared that victims of the September 8 and 9 protests as martyrs, and September 17th a national day of mourning. Bereaved families will receive financial support from the government, including 100,000 rupees for funeral expenses and 1.5 million rupees in compensation. Authorities reported that the protest, which spread from Kathmandu to towns like Nepal Gunj have left 72 people dead, including one Indian national, and around 1,300 others injured. The unrest was further fueled by a government ban on 26 social media platforms, including Facebook and YouTube, a move justified as an attempt to curb hate speech and fraud. Though the ban was quickly lifted, it intensified public anger and widened the demonstrations. Honoring the protesters as martyrs may offer closure to some, but for many in Nepal, the wounds run deep. And beyond the mourning, doubts linger over whether the government's promises will truly be enough to calm a generation demanding change. Reporting for Newsline World, Almar Suelo, SMNI News.
Russia is warning European countries against sending peacekeepers to Ukraine. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says any such troops would be treated as occupying forces and legitimate targets. Franco Baranda will give us the details.
Speaking at a Moscow roundtable on the UN Charter and the Ukrainian crisis, Foreign Minister Lavrov said Western guarantees for any peacekeeping zone in Ukraine would amount to the West occupying Ukraine.
Вот представьте себе, если какая-то часть Украины будет территорией, где размещаются так называемые миротворцы, и будут для этой части Украины, бывшей Украины, для этой территории действовать гарантии безопасности Запада, заточенные против Российской Федерации, это что? Это будет означать только одно, что Запад оккупировал, еще раз скажу, Украину, и если никаких изменений в законодательстве Украины не произойдет, будет означать, что на этой оккупированной Западом территории
Lavrov's remark follow a September 4 meeting in Paris, where 26 countries expressed willingness to send peacekeepers to Ukraine once a ceasefire or peace agreement is in place. French President Emmanuel Macron said representatives from 35 nations joined the discussions. The following day, Russian President Vladimir Putin warned that any NATO peacekeepers deployed would become, quote, legitimate targets for defeat by Russian forces. Meanwhile, Lavrov criticized the West of attempting to reassert its position.
Европа явно пытается достаточно беспардонно отвоевать себе место за столом переговоров, хотя с позицией, которую она исповедует, с позицией реваншизма, нанесения России стратегического поражения, за столом переговоров, конечно, делать нечего.
Russia launched its invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 after recognizing the breakaway Donetsk and Luhansk republics. Moscow demanded Ukraine remain neutral and never join NATO, terms Kyiv rejected. Ukraine has called the offensive an unprovoked invasion. Western allies continue to back Kyiv with weapons and aid, while sanctions on Moscow remain in place. As tensions grow over whether international forces could one day monitor a peace deal in Ukraine, Moscow's message is clear. Any foreign boots on the ground would be seen as hostile. Reporting for Newsline World, Franco Baranda, SMNI News.
Paraguay has extradited a man suspected of leading a violent cartel-linked group in Mexico. Hernan Bermudez, known as El Abuelo, is back in Mexican custody after years off the run. Bermudez, a former police chief in Mexico, is accused of heading La Barredora, a group tied to the powerful Jalisco New Generation cartel. He faces charges of organized crime, extortion, and kidnapping. Escorted under heavy guard, Bermudez was handed over to Mexican authorities at Silvio Peterosi International Airport in Luque. The Paraguayan government local time, ending his time in hiding near the capital, Asuncion. Investigators say Bermudez lived in isolation in a quiet suburb, avoiding contact to stay under the radar. He was captured September 12 during a joint raid by Paraguay's intelligence services and Mexican officials. Bermudez is now in a maximum security prison in the state of Mexico, where he awaits trial. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is calling on the United States to ramp up sanctions on Russia A European lawmakers weighed their 19th sanction package. Zelensky spoke alongside the President of the European Parliament in Kiev. MJ Mondihar is back for more news.
At a press conference in Kiev, President Volodymyr Zelensky sent a clear message. More pressure is needed against Russia. Zelensky wants the latest EU sanctions to hit Russian energy, targeting both resources and the infrastructure that moves them. That's a direct challenge to EU member countries still heavily dependent on Russian gas, including Hungary and Slovakia. The EU divide grew sharper after a Ukrainian strike on a Russian pipeline, which briefly cut supplies and drew Romania's ire. Standing next to Zelensky, European Parliament President Roberta Metsola backed tougher action. Metsola also insisted a majority in Parliament favors Ukraine's eventual membership in the EU, a swipe at Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who argues Ukraine's accession would drag the bloc into war. Beyond sanctions and membership, Zelensky revealed Ukraine's mounting financial strain. For now, Kyiv says it has secured more than $2 billion through the PURL program, with another $3.5 billion expected in October. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been MJ Mondihar, SMNA News.
Children will grow up and bring the joy, the love, the peace, and compassion to the whole world. We only have one planet. We only have one Earth. And I hope that this new generation of children that we have reached out will become millions and billions and bring peace on Earth. Bring peace to humanity.
Sa kabila ng mga mas modernong kaalaman at teknolohiya, nananatiling matindi ang banta ng HIV sa Pilipinas. Pero gaano nga ba kalala ang sitwasyon? Ang HIV o Human Immunodeficiency Virus ay isang sakit na sumisira sa immune system ng katawan. Ngunit tandaan, hindi ito nakukuha sa simpleng pakikisalamuha. Hindi mo agad mararamdaman, pero unti-unti nitong pinapahina ang katawan. At kapag hindi naagapan, humahantong ito sa AIDS, ang huling yugto na impeksyon, kung saan halos wala ng panlaban ng katawan laban sa sakit. Patuloy na dumadami ang kaso ng sakit na ito sa Pilipinas. Isang nakababahalang pagtaas. Umabot na sa 500% ang itinaas ng HIV cases sa mga kabataang edad 15 hanggang 25. Ayon mismo sa Department of Health, 56 na bagong kaso ang naitatala kada araw sa bansa mula Enero hanggang Marso 2025. At ang pinakamatinding apektado, ang kalalakihan at kabataang Pilipino. Dahil dito, ang Pilipinas na ngayon ang may pinakamataas na bilang ng bagong kaso ng HIV sa buong Western Pacific region. Isang indikasyon ng lumulubahang sitwasyon. Kaya nananawagan ng Department of Health gawing opisyal at urgent ang laban sa HIV sa pamamagitan ng isang Public Health Emergency Declaration. Kalalakihan ng pangunahing apektado, 95% ng bagong kaso ay lalaki. Mahigit 1/3 ay kabataang nasa edad 15 hanggang 24. Habang wala pang deklarasyon, patuloy ang DOH sa mga sumusunod na hakbang: HIV testing, libreng gamot, self-test kits, at pakikipagtulungan sa DepEd para sa edukasyon sa mga paaralan. Isinulong rin ng DOH ang online patient appointment system para sa HIV patients. Layunin nitong gawing mas madali at mas personal ang pag-access sa libreng gamutan at konsultasyon. Ayon sa schedule ng pasyente, ang HIV ay hindi tulad ng flu. Hindi ito basta naipapasa sa hangin. Ito ay naipapasa sa pamamagitan ng personal na desisyon. Kailangan din nating pagtuunan ng pansin ang ugali, disiplina, at personal na responsibilidad. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
Anything that tries your faith and puts you on the spot of deciding whether to continue or to stop is a fire. Whether it is persecution, whether it is loved ones, family, anything that will try your faith, whether to continue or to stop or to overcome or draw back, it is called fire. Now, salvation is based upon our building up on the foundation. Whether silver, gold, stubble, precious stones, that means if it is gold, then it's genuine. It can go through the fire, but it will stay. When your confession of commitment and dedication is not true, when the fire goes through you, you will be burned. That's why I love my ministry. Because all of those that are able to overcome are certified 100% pure gold. Pure gold. Hypocrites have no place in the kingdom nation. Pretenders have no place in the kingdom nation. Plastics don't have place in the kingdom nation. Why? Because before we can be ushered into the new world, we should be tried by fire.
U.S. President Donald Trump was warmly welcomed at Windsor Castle, joining King Charles III, Queen Camilla, and the royal family for a day of pageantry and a state banquet celebrating the closeness between the United States and the United Kingdom. Here's Prince Tripoli for the details.
U.S. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump were welcomed by King Charles III and Queen Camilla at Windsor Castle on Wednesday, local time, for a day of pageantry capped by a state banquet, part of Trump's unprecedented second state visit to the United Kingdom. America's presidential couple arrived in a carriage procession, inspired troops, and attended performances by military bands before joining members of the royal family, including Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, for the evening banquet. The program focused on Windsor, with Buckingham Palace under renovation and London protests against Trump's visit continuing. In his banquet speech, Trump called the event one of the highest honors of his life, praising the eternal and unbreakable bond between the US and UK. He stressed shared history, values, and global responsibilities, while quipping about being the first American president to receive a second state visit.
It's a singular privilege to be the first American president welcomed here. And if you think about it, it's a lot of presidents, and this was the second state visit. And that's the first, and maybe that's going to be the last time. I hope it is, actually. but this is truly one of the highest honors of my life. The bond of kinship and identity between America and the United Kingdom is priceless and eternal. It's irreplaceable and unbreakable, and we are, as a country, as you know, doing unbelievably well.
King Charles described the relationship as a special partnership rooted in historic ties, highlighting joint support for Ukraine and praising Trump's engagement in global diplomacy.
Anchored by the deep friendship between our people, this relationship, which with good reason we and our predecessors have long called special, has made us safer and stronger through the generation.
The visit unfolds against political turbulence in Britain, marked by dismissal of U.S. Ambassador Peter Mandelson over his links to Jeffrey Epstein and domestic disputes on immigration and free speech. Trump is set to continue his program on Thursday at Chequers, where he will meet Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer for talks at a joint press briefing. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Prince Tripoli, your citizen correspondent.
And for sports update, Mark Espejo led the Philippines to a stunning upset over African champion Egypt at the Volleyball World Championship. And in Europe, Hurricane capitalized on Scholz's mistakes to secure a win for Bayern Munich in their Champions League opener. Carla De La Peña has more details.
Mark Espejo's game-winning block secured the Philippines' 29-27, 23-25, 25-21, 25-21 triumph over African champion Egypt Tuesday night at the Mall of Asia Arena. Though the five-time UAAP MVP struggled offensively with only 9 hits from 28 attempts, he delivered on defense with 13 points, including 3 blocks capped by the decisive stop that ended the match. His leaping fist pump, met with a roar from the crowd, drew parallels to Michael Jordan's iconic 1989 playoff celebration. For Philippine volleyball, however, it marked a historic breakthrough. "This is a major milestone and I'm really happy to be part of this history," said Espejo, who joined Brian Bagunas and Leo Ordiales in powering the Nationals. The victory, deemed unlikely by many, handed the Philippines its first ever World Championship win while boosting team morale ahead of their final Pool A match. On Thursday, Alas Pilipinas faces Asian powerhouse Iran with a spot in the round of 16 at stake. Meanwhile, Kane struck twice, first converting a penalty he won after Moises Caicedo's foul, then curling home Bayern's third goal following Malo Gusto's errant pass. Chelsea defender Trevoh Chalobah earlier turned the ball into his own net, while Cole Palmer marked his 100th club appearance with a superb finish to briefly keep the visitors in the contest. Palmer also saw a potential equalizer ruled out for offside. Despite the lively start with the chances from Pedro Neto and Enzo Fernandez, Chelsea's defensive errors proved costly as Bayern extended their streak to 22 straight opening match wins in the Champions League. Kane now has 10 goals in 6 appearances this season, lifting his tally to 95 goals in 102 matches since joining Bayern. Manager Vincent Kompany hailed his captain's relentless work rate as well as his clinical finishing.
Chelsea's next test is at Stamford Bridge against Benfica, a match that could mark Jose Mourinho's return to West London.
Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carlo De La Peña bringing you the latest sports news.
Province, the long wait is finally over. Thousands of villagers in Ningbo have taken to the seas once again, marking the grand reopening of the fishing season. From Shipo Fishery Port, more than 1,500 boats draped in bright, colorful flags set sail together, their horns echoing across the East China. On shore, crowds gathered in celebration, watching the spectacle and cheering on the fishermen. This annual tradition follows a 4.5-month break, giving marine life time to replenish. Now, with nets mended and supplies carefully packed, fishermen are eager to bring in the first catches of the season. Authorities expect the marine harvest in Jiangxi country to remain strong at more than 360,000 tons, with deep sea production rising nearly 10%. And for seafood lovers, there's even more to celebrate. Shangshan's fish and shellfish are famed for their delicate taste, thanks to the unique waters of the East China Sea. In today's showbiz news, Stephen King's The Long Walk finally comes to life, packed with emotionally intense scenes, and it doesn't stop there. After its international premiere, the film is now showing in theaters across the Philippines. Meanwhile, get ready to sing your heart out because Disney Channel's Camp Rock 3 is officially in the works. With the news confirmed by Disney, fans have erupted in a frenzy of excitement. Stella Maurice tell us more on this news.
Fans of Stephen King's dystopian classic are in for a treat. The story has finally come to life on the big screen. After its release in the United States by Lionsgate on September 12, The Long Walk made its highly anticipated debut in Philippine cinemas on September 17. Directed by Francis Lawrence, known for his work on the Hunger Games franchise, the film is based on Stephen King's first novel published in 1979. Set in a totalitarian future, the story follows 50 teenage boys who must maintain a walking speed of at least 4 miles per hour in a deadly competition where falling behind means certain execution. The walk is an annual event with no finish line. Participants keep walking until only one winner remains. The production made a few changes from the novel to the movie, one of which is the number of walkers. While the book features 100 walkers, the film reduces this to 50, with each walker representing a different state. According to the filmmakers, it was easier to manage 50 actors on a continuously moving set than 100. This adjustment also gives the audience a better chance to get to know the unique traits of each character. Mark Hamill takes on the role of the Major, adding a chilling presence to the story. Meanwhile, the 50 walkers are portrayed by mostly unknown actors, bringing fresh faces to the screen. Critics have praised the film for its intense storytelling and strong performances, earning a 93% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. The Long Walk is now showing in selected cinemas nationwide. Disney Channel has officially confirmed that Camp Rock 3 is in development, sending waves of excitement through the global fan base. Following the massive success of Camp Rock and Camp Rock 2, the final jam, the beloved musical franchise, is gearing up for a brand new chapter. While official plot details remain under wraps, sources revealed that the third installment promises fresh music, new faces, and a more mature take on the lives of the original campers. Will Demi Lovato and the Jonas Brothers return? Absolutely. Fans insist that it wouldn't be Camp Rock without the Jonas Brothers and Demi Lovato, who made the series iconic. The original fictional band Connect 3 will reprise their roles as Shane Gray, Nate Gray, and Jason Gray, with Demi returning as Michi Torres. The Camp Rock phenomenon began in 2008 when the first film introduced viewers to the musical world of Michi Torres and Connect 3. Its sequel, Camp Rock 2, The Final Jam, followed in 2010, solidifying the franchise as a Disney Channel classic and launching the careers of its young stars. As of now, the official release date has yet to be announced, but fans of Camp Rock around the world are already buzzing with excitement. And that's for today's Showbiz Update. This is Stella Maurice, your global citizen correspondent, bringing you the latest entertainment news and updates for Newsline World.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the words of the... And as we keep track of the countdown, there's only 98 days left before Christmas. And that's for this edition of the Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Gellian Gutierrez. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.